Okay? And there are things called student discounts. That's price discrimination. Is it because those businesses love students? Those poor students are having trouble making ends meet. I better give them a discount. Well, maybe some of them. Most of them are saying, those rascally students, they're kind of strapped for cash, and they might be kind of finicky about buying my product at this price that these other folks will pay. Student discount card. That way I can continue to charge the high price to those who will pay it without losing those more discriminating students because they have less money to spend as customers. And that's the idea of a discount card. Senior discount card, same thing. Okay, they're trying to keep the price, the marked price, high for those who will pay it without losing as customers those who will not pay it or will not buy very much at that higher price. Okay, so be glad that you're a student and you get a discount, but it isn't because they love you. Well, probably not. Right? It's because they're trying to make the most money they can on their product and discount the product only to those who are sensitive to the availability of that discount and not for others who would buy it regardless. And you're throwing money away when you give a discount to somebody who would buy it at the higher price. Okay, and then the other main issue for price discrimination. Oops, I got a cough, so I better turn this off. I'll deafen everybody. Sorry about that, even though I did get that turned off in time. All right, the other main issue for price discrimination is, okay, so we have two or more prices for different sets of people, maybe in different places or maybe in different income classes. Maybe one set that gets the lower price would think, they're charging more to these other people. Why don't I buy it at the low price, like the student price, and then resell it at a little bit of a discount below the regular price to those who aren't students? That's called arbitrage or reselling. Simple term for the same thing. So for price discrimination to be successful, the potential for arbitrage has to be pretty low. Because otherwise, those who have access to the good at the low price will defeat your attempt to try to sell the price at a higher price, sell the product at a higher price to some people. Services, it's hard to resell those, right? So no problem there with arbitrage, but goods, somebody buy them in quantity at the low price might be able to actually make a profit reselling them at a little bit less than the high price intended for everybody else. Okay, I think that covered, that does actually cover most of the content of chapter 14, but in a conversational way that may or may not have sunk in or worked as well as it should have, so we'll cover the same items. Let's do attendance first before we get into that. Amazing end of the semester on December 1st. No, it's because we started in mid-August, back when it was 100 degrees. And again, the final exam is 9:45 on December 11. Okay, so 10 days to do whatever you think you need to do to be wherever you want grade-wise. And I'm going to be around, so email me, talk to me, call me, say, Doc, when are you going to be in your office? And if it's not when it's convenient to you, I will try to be in my office at a time that is convenient to you. Okay, I don't want anybody to say, the stuff went by too fast, or I didn't have a chance to get after it, or, I don't want to. No excuses approach, right? All the possibilities are there for you to catch up and do whatever you need to do. Yes?
So the final, do we need to register like the other tests?
Yeah, I think you still have to do that. See, the final's on the 11th, so you have until the 10th, I think they said. I don't know why it's the day before now. It used to be a few days before. But do try to do that so they don't harass you on the day of. I don't think they'll stop you from taking the final, but they do have to impose some harassment or something to get people to sign up. Otherwise, no one will. Is that about right? How many people? 37. Oh, well. All right, so there it is, a formal definition. Selling the same product at a different price to different customers. Now, one thing to note about selling, what we mean by selling the same product, it might look the same, feel the same, but still be a different product in some cases. So, well, Doc, you said, what on earth are you talking about? Well, suppose you're selling water at different prices to different people. It's the same water, same chemical composition, but you charge more to the folks that live at the top of the hill rather than the folks that live at the bottom of the hill. Why would that be? Well, because it costs money to pump it up to the top of the hill. Is that price discrimination? Well, not really, because it's a different product that you're selling. Okay, so just because you have a different price for seemingly the same thing doesn't automatically mean that it's price discrimination. The same cost yielding a different price, that's price discrimination. Okay, and typically the same product has the same cost, but not always, and it's likewise for services. Usually you have to have some price-making ability. In other words, if you're a price taker, a pure competitor, there's no room for you to price discriminate, to charge different prices to different customers. Okay, so we just had the monopoly chapter. That would be a clear instance of where somebody says, you know, should I charge the same price on all sales, or should I attempt to charge different customers different prices? Okay, so monopoly clearly has that opportunity to ponder that possibility, to be a price maker at on several different levels. And why would they do that? Well, typically, it makes them more money to do it. Best amount of anything is always where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. Okay, so for a business, that translates into marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And if we have different sets of buyers that we can separate either by time cost, or because they live in different places, or because they're seniors or not, or students or not, we still want to follow that basic rule. Marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And if the marginal cost is the same across the groups, the marginal revenue has to be the same across all the groups. That's where you have to have a different price to have the same marginal revenue across the groups. And we'll show that in a slide in a minute. I'm pondering whether I should go above and beyond the book a little bit. Yeah, why not? That's not in the book, but it'll serve some of you well that don't take another economics course. You'll run into it in the next micro principles if you do. Okay? Basically, it just says that marginal revenue is a function of, or marginal revenue is related to price differently depending on the price elasticity of demand. That's all it means. Okay? The higher this number, in absolute value, remember it's a negative number. The higher this number in absolute value, right, the smaller the difference between marginal revenue and price. Right? The more elastic the demand is, the smaller the difference between marginal revenue and price. And so to maximize profit, you just set say P1 and P2 and all the other prices, if there's more than two, will differ if the elasticities differ. Right? The bottom line that I just drew there is just marginal cost equals marginal revenue, just the way that it is up on the slide, but now relating marginal revenue to price. The prices will differ if the elasticities differ. What does that mean? That means, well, among other things, if the demand lines look different. Right, a steeper demand line, all else equal, is less elastic. Let's take a quick example of that. Suppose the elasticity is 2. Okay, so and notice that I said 2 and I didn't say minus 2. Well, yeah, it's a minus 2. Okay, most of the time we just care about the absolute value. But suppose we have that in there, so we would do the math. Now, hopefully nobody's getting the heebie-jeebies from the algebra involved in here. I mean, there's no advanced algebra here. You can all handle this. I know some people are just kind of math phobic and the equation goes on the board. One of the reasons that I decided to put this up here, even though it's not on the board, is because many of you have family members in running a business, okay, a retail business, okay, or you're involved in it yourself, and you've heard of the 100% markup rule. There it is. The 100% markup rule, price equals 2 times marginal cost, is profit maximizing, makes marginal revenue equal marginal cost, when the elasticity is 2. What does that mean? When your customers buy 2% less when the price goes up by 1%. Okay, make sure you keep reminding yourself of what an elasticity tells you. An elasticity of 2 means that the change in quantity is twice the change in the price that causes it. Okay, so an elasticity of 2 means if price goes up 1%, quantity demanded goes down by 2%. So think about that. You've just learned something, that if you have someone that runs a retail business and they have this markup rule for pricing their product, you have a huge insight for them that may make a big difference to the success of their business. Because you can go and ask them and you say, I learned in class today that 100% markup rule, price equals twice the wholesale cost. That's the marginal cost for most businesses, the wholesale cost. 100% markup rule is profit maximizing only if customers respond at a 2-to-1 rate. Don't say the word elasticity to them, and they'll shut off, that freaks people out. Okay, interpret the word for them. Okay, ask them, do you believe your customers will buy 20% less if you raise your price 10%? You say, yeah. Oh, well, then you should have a 100% markup rule. If they say, no, I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll buy 30% less, or only 15% less, or only 5% less. Then you say, I learned in class today that you better not be doing that 100% markup rule. That's only profit maximizing if your customers buy 20% less when you charge them 10% more. Or buy 20% more if you charge them 10% less. Yeah. But in any event, the general idea that is fair game for the exam 10 days from today is the notion that price varies with the price elasticity of demand. And I think we covered that already back in chapter 5. Now we're just saying that we might have different sets of customers with different price elasticities of demand, and therefore if we can separate them, prevent arbitrage, prevent reselling from the low price group to the high price group, then we should charge those different prices and we'd make more money. And sometimes we need to make more money just to survive. Not always, but sometimes it's just, hey, we're making more profit this way. And sometimes it's like, hey, we better do this or we won't have enough revenue to cover our expenses. As always, studying means practice. So run through this a few more times with different elasticities. What if the elasticity is -3? Okay, what if it's -4? What if it's -5? How much more should a business charge above their marginal cost, which for retail business is typically what they pay the wholesaler for their product they put on their shelf? Okay, not only will you be doing your studying, but you might have a few light bulbs go poof, like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. Yeah. All right, moving on through the basic things. Okay, so here's a what if. What if a firm sells a product in 2 different continents? Well, arbitrage then would have to involve, if it occurred, somebody buying it in Africa is going to turn out to be the one where the lower price is profit maximizing, hauling it from Africa to Europe. Well, if they can buy a lot of it in one place and put it on a boat and move it to Europe, they might still be able to make a little bit of money doing that. But probably that's a pretty good separator, is an ocean between the high price and low price group. Okay? If they just had a single price, they'd have sort of some in-between price where they'd address the average price elasticity of demand for the 2 different markets. okay, which would cost them some money over the profit maximizing strategy. Whoa. Huh. Okay. It's amazing which parts of it come up first when you have the little, what is it called? The animation of the PowerPoint slides. All right, so here you see Europe has much less elastic demand. How can we make that statement? A steeper demand line. Okay, so if we do our chapter 13 thing where we put marginal revenue and marginal cost on there, MR is equal to MC at Q Europe there in the left-hand slide. Okay, and then we go up to the demand line to get the price. Okay, so MR is equal to MC determines the quantity to sell in that market, to expect to sell in that market at the price indicated by the demand line. Okay, so P Europe would be pretty high if they charge different prices in the different markets. I'm not sure that Cowan and Tabarrok conceived of a very good example here, because you see in the right-hand slide, the P world price would result in almost no sales in Africa at all. I mean, there'd be no reason to charge less than the Europe price to sell more in Africa, because they're still not selling much of anything. But that aside, the basic point is fulfilled by these slides, namely that they will make more profit by selling at P Europe in Europe and P Africa in the right-hand slide than by selling at P World in both slides, or in both markets. Okay, a lot of jargon there. So let me make sure I slow down a little bit and let you do some digestion. Sorry, I was in New Orleans for my annual conference. A little leftover Cajun there. Okay, now you've had 3 tests to think back to. Doggone it, if I'd only asked a question on that beforehand, I wouldn't have missed this question. Yeah. It's another one of those moments. Because this is definitely going to be on the test. I mean, this looks like something I just picked out of the test bank for me, making up the final, these little graphs here and what price they should charge and stuff. So it's just looking like a bunch of hieroglyphics to you. You better, then again, you could go online like someone finally did and ask a question. A couple people have already this semester, but somebody for chapter 13 posted one of my numerical examples and asked a question about it. Cool, we should be doing more of that even with just a couple days left in the semester. But again, you're welcome to visit face-to-face. Love to visit with you, love to see you, love to meet you for the first time, which for some of you, amazingly, having heard my voice now for 4 months, I have yet to hear yours. Be cool if I could do that. See you in public somewhere down the road. Think, I remember who that was, but I have no idea who you are. That's not good. All right, let's see what else we're going to talk about. Yes, here's the slide that talks about the arbitrage that we already did in the conversational tone. If the demand curves are different, as in the last slides, we want to charge different prices in the different markets to make more profit. We can do that as long as it's not easy for buyers, in this case Africa, to buy the product cheap and haul it off to Europe and undercut our P Europe price. Okay, that recognize the term arbitrage to apply to that, because I do use the test bank and the words from Cowan and Tabarrok. Those are their words and those are the ones in the questions. You can see that I've annotated the slide a little bit. The one that's on BB Learn probably doesn't have that little bracket where it says reselling in it. And that's part of my class prep process, is tweaking, editing, playing around with the slides, and sometimes adding a word here or there, sometimes adding a whole slide, as I've done here. So keep that in mind. That's what arbitrage is. It just means reselling. Buying low and selling higher, but not as high as the official price, and thus to make money on the enterprise. Let's see, okay, so, all right, so to increase profits, the firm has to be able to defeat or discourage or just not see any prospects for folks who are reselling the product from the low price to the high price market. All right, just like I said, points that I think I've gone over already but didn't write down. Now they're written down for you. PowerPoint you can download. Hopefully now you know what it means. Okay, some products it's going to be easy to do the arbitrage thing, some not so easy. Therefore, leaving open the possibility of the price discrimination. Okay, so again, if it can't prevent arbitrage, it can't benefit from price discrimination. Okay, so why do they segment a market? Make more money. Okay, higher price goes for the less elastic demand or more inelastic demand. Okay, what is arbitrage? Reselling. It's reselling from the low price to the high price market. All right, so you see here, when I was standing up there, already having gone over this slide, I remembered it. Talked about it a little bit there already. Very common practice for airlines. Vacationers have more elastic demand, business travelers less so in many cases. So business travelers, if you're a business traveler, don't ask the person on vacation next to you what they paid to be sitting right next to you on the same flight. Ouch. Okay? I think that's identical to the P Europe and P Africa graph in terms of the lines. They probably just cut and paste and just relabeled it, that it works. The business travelers have less elastic demand, the vacation travelers have more elastic demand, so profit is maximized between the two of them by charging business travelers more than vacation travelers. So here's the example from Matthew Vald, 1998, what different prices prevail on the same flight. Big differences. I don't get the $0 for 249 days in advance. I don't know, I guess that's your frequent flyer mileage being used or something like that. If you book well in advance or something, you get a freebie. But you can see on there too, there's some that are, let's see, what's the highest number up there? 881. Oops, no, that's 181. There's one that says 728, 8 days in advance. 956 in first class, 20 days in advance. Or 956. Big differences. All right, so here's a slide that I added, just a list of some things that we've already talked about. Okay, putting things on sale takes advantage of the fact that some people are impulsive and will buy it at the regular price and won't wait, even knowing that sales occur periodically, they won't wait for the sale, they'll pay the higher price, and then others will say, that's going to go on sale in a few weeks and I'll buy it then, rather than not at all. And they might not buy it at all at the regular price. Okay, so sales separate the more impulsive higher income buyers from the less impulsive lower income buyers. Again, the student discount, students are typically lower income than the average rest of the population. So the student discounts aren't because they love you, it's because they want to charge the regular price to those who will pay it without losing you rascals as customers. Okay, senior discount, same thing. People are retired, and so their income probably isn't as high as it used to be when they were working, and so their demand is likely to be not as high as it otherwise would be. And we talked about the discount coupons already, the time cost of clipping and hauling those around and figuring out which product has the discount and which one doesn't is the deterrent for those who have higher opportunity costs for their time, typically higher income people, from using them, so they pay the regular price, and then those who clip the coupons pay a lower price. And then there's that perfect price discrimination. Again, perfect for whom? Perfect for those with enough information to know the maximum willingness to pay of all of their customers. Because that way they can charge the most possible to everybody and grab all the consumer surplus. Okay, so all that gains from trade, between the supply line and the demand line, last time we drew it, PS and CS, all PS now, all producer surplus. So in a bizarre sort of way, it's now efficient. Yeah, it's efficient for you for somebody to shake you down. Why? Well, because then they won't keep the price high as sort of a trade-off between selling more at a lower price and selling less at a higher price, because they can sell everyone at the highest price that anybody will pay. So with perfect price discrimination, the market quantity is the same quantity as with competitive conditions, because the last price that anybody will pay, the lowest price that the lowest willingness to pay person will pay, is the competitive market price. So the quantity will be the same as if it was a competitive market, therefore no deadweight loss. So rah for efficient, sort of. Except you're thinking, wow, I paid not a penny less than the most I'd be willing to pay for that. They basically shook me down. No gains from trade. I'm like, So this is a case where maybe efficiency isn't all that it's trumped up to be, since only one side of the market gets any benefits from the trade in these conditions. Okay, all of the gains from trade flow to the monopolist. Now let's think about it a little bit. First degree price, See, I'm used to perfect price discrimination. I'm used to calling it first degree price discrimination. The coupons, that's third degree. You don't need to remember that, but sorry, I slipped into my okay, first degree or pure price discrimination or perfect price discrimination takes a lot of information. You have to know your customers' maximum willingness to pay, which means you have to know a lot about them. Who out there has that much information, or might, about their customers? Who collects an awful lot of data about their customers, either as just part of their service or as part of the application process for something that they're selling? You should know the answer to this, at least one of the answers, seeing as what you are and how you got here. Another one of those things where you might not want to ask the person next to you how much they're paying. Because, see, universities know a lot about their customers, right? An application, what's your family income and all that stuff. Different financial aid packages for different people based on need. Oh, well, they're just trying to do, in many cases, it's been shown that it's not so much a heart-rending, oh my goodness, they don't have enough ability to pay, we don't want them to come in. Universities trying to squeeze as much money out of every one of them as possible. It's the same thing as the airlines. Marginal cost of another student is close to zero. Right? If there's an empty seat to fill, my lecture isn't diminished for you back there if somebody's sitting over there, okay, and a couple more over here. Okay, so any price, not exactly like zero like the airline, but any reasonable price above marginal cost, which is low, is attractive to a university administrator. As long as they can charge some buyers a high price in order to cover the high fixed costs of running a university. See, they can't charge everybody marginal cost, which is very low, because then they won't have enough money to pay for this enterprise. But if they charge a bunch of people a high price, they can make a little bit of additional money by filling otherwise empty seats at a relatively low price. Okay? So, universities are in a position to, and have been shown to practice something akin to perfect price discrimination because they know a lot about their customers, you. Who else? You're in the College of Business, most of you, that's why you're taking this class. Who in business knows the most about their customers and therefore is in a position to charge different customers a different price for their services? Well, not just a rhetorical question, get the wheels turning. That's one of the reasons some of you are struggling, is because you're just stenographers. Your brain's not on when you're in here, you're just taking notes. That's true for out there for you in recording land as well. Come on, run down the list of the different departments in the College of Business. Entrepreneurship, management, finance, accounting, economics. Which one of those, I probably missed one or two in there, but which one of those knows a lot about their customers? I didn't come armed. I'm not going to shoot anybody for a wrong answer. It's okay to make a mistake, especially here. That's how you get mistakes out of your system on the exam. Come on that list, who knows an awful lot about the people that they're charging for their services?
Like an information systems class?
Wait a minute. Now, who buys the services of somebody that has an information systems degree? A business usually hires them to do that. And so the employee typically doesn't know that much about the business that's purchasing their services. So, no, that's not the one. I mean, it might be. Maybe I don't understand. That's not. No, that one's never been presented as the case where perfect price discrimination would occur. Who on the list knows a lot about their customers? Run through the list again. Economics, finance, accounting, management, entrepreneurship. Again, I've probably forgotten a few in there.
You're only talking about UTSA, right?
No, just which one of those professions knows a lot about the people that they charge for their work? No.
No.
Well, but say why you thought that would be the one.
Because you said no about, what was it?
Well, see, the entrepreneurship, they just sell something to the general public.
Okay.
I mean, because they run businesses, right?
Financing requires a lot of business analysis, so therefore it takes a lot of...
Okay, but still, I think you're an employee of a business, and so that's who's paying you, and you'd have to know what their maximum willingness to pay is in order to say, hey, boss, I know your maximum willingness to pay for me is $60,227.57. Pay up.
But they analyze like credit score and also income.
Maybe. I'm thinking of one that's even better than that. On the list just below that in non-business professions would be doctors and lawyers. They know a lot about the people that they bill. Right? I mean, the lawyer, right? I mean, okay? Who's on top of the list ahead of them in terms of knowing intimately about somebody's willingness to pay?
What about like a government subsidy program like CHIPS or something where you're required again to submit your...
Okay, that's another example, but that's not one of the lists from the College of Business disciplines. Accounting, there you go. Yeah, I mean, accounting means that you're running somebody's books, right? I mean, talk about knowing everything about them. You know every penny that they get from where they get it from. You know whether they're making money or losing money and by how much. Okay, so accountants, I'm not saying they do perfect price discrimination. I'm saying they have the ability to. They have the information base, in many cases, to be able to do it, to know what the maximum willingness to pay is. So accountants, lawyers, and MD, doctors, typically are at the top of the list, and then universities and the one that you gave, which one, say that, what was it again? Right, government subsidy programs where they, let's see, what would be the price there that they would be varying among customers? I guess how much to subsidize them, yeah. Okay, so that's not exactly a profit maximizing thing. It's trying to measure need and therefore how much subsidy is necessary or advisable. Okay. All right, so as I just said, if the monopolist is able to practice perfect price discrimination, the quantity that they produce and sell ultimately turns out to be the same as the amount in a competitive market. And so we maximize the gains from trade, but all of them go to the monopoly and none to the customer. Okay, so all of the area between P is equal to MC, right? Where it says MC, that would be the price, charged to the last customer. The price that Brian would be charged. But all the other customers are charged more than Brian, their maximum willingness to pay, and so that entire area between the demand line and the MC line is the gain from trade, and all of it goes to the seller. Okay, that's what we were just talking about, or some of us were, some of you were just silent. All of you, most of you were. Very detailed information about customers, accountants, lawyers, MDs, university administrators, that sort of thing. Nevertheless, something less than perfect looks pretty attractive still to businesses, so they gather as much information as they can from you to figure out how much they can get away with charging you. Okay, here's the slide about the universities. Okay, here's an example from Williams College from about a decade ago where, depending on your income quartile, how much you paid for exactly the same instruction. And if you didn't pay, $32,000. Wow, okay. All right, we talked about the early bird thing. Yeah, it could be price discrimination in terms of income. Okay, where early bird, they serve some customers that wouldn't otherwise go there, right? Because the price is lower. But it's also, hey, let's shift some folks to an earlier time period when we have empty tables and thus keep people from having to wait or not come at all later when we're full. So a mixture of objectives there. Okay, so we covered this already too. Price discrimination sounds like a rip-off. It sounds unfair, and often it is, but it's not always bad. Sometimes it's necessary in order for the product to exist in the forms that it does. Like the airline example. If we passed a law and said, you nasty airlines, you can't price discriminate, it would make it very difficult for a lot of travelers to get tickets at the last minute. Because airlines then wouldn't hold them for the last minute, hoping to sell them at a high price. All right, well, we have 10 minutes to talk about whatever you want, or if you do it quietly, a head start on whatever else you got going today.
In general, what are you going to focus on for the final? Any specific areas?
Trying to minimize your... I'm not trying to dodge your question so much as that I don't know any way to characterize it. It's comprehensive, chapter 1 through 11, then 13, and this half of 14. So, I tend at the end to cover kind of major things, not nitpicky things so much. I mean, I say that with hesitance because I don't think I ever really hammer on nitpicky stuff. But, when I look at the possibilities from the test bank and I picked a bunch from Top Hat, when I look at the possibilities, that, which ones that I should use, I want to cover major themes before lesser themes. Not that the lesser ones are unimportant, but, I want to leave you going off into the world with maybe your one and only economics classes with the key skills: supply and demand analysis, marginal benefit, marginal cost, opportunity cost. Those just keep resonating over and over again, that those are the three things that need to be functionally in your brain to be a good professional, regardless of what you choose to do. So I don't know if that helped much. Okay, all right.
And again, another one to throw at you. Are you going to throw any repeat questions?
Huh?
Any repeat questions from other exams and stuff?
Not deliberately, but I wasn't careful in going through the test bank as to whether I picked one that I picked before.
Yeah, okay.
So there could be some on there that were on there before. But, the test bank has like 10 different versions of the same question. So even if it isn't identically the same question, I'm sure there's many on there that are almost. So, one thing, I'm glad I thought of this as a result of your question. One thing you definitely want to make sure you don't do, A, because it doesn't teach you anything, B, because it could be dangerous, is to memorize the answer to old questions. Because I have a really bad habit of going through and adding the word not or taking it out of questions. Okay? Where it looks like exactly the same question with exactly the same answers, but now a different answer is right. Okay? Because I want your brain to be working as you're going through that test and not just, oh yeah, I remember this one from exam 2. The answer was, whatever it was. I want you to think about the content of every one of the questions and answer based on that. And I don't want you to go through and, this one's not right, that one's. I want you to know which one's right. Okay? Approach it that way. Yes, on some you're not sure, and you'll go through and cross out some of them. Yes, but not an automatic strategy of not. Oh, then it's this one. Please don't do that, and just for your own intellectual development. But definitely don't memorize the old ones in case there's. Oh yeah, I remember that one. Ugh. Now that'll get you burned more often than not. More Q&A. We have 5 more minutes before the period ends. And I'll be in my office as always all day today. I typically leave at 6:20 or so on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I think even though Thursday's not a class day, I think I'll do that on Thursday too. And I won't have any classes, so anytime on Thursday you want to come by, you're used to being on campus on Thursdays, come by and come with some questions. I've urged several of you to go through that exam 3 and find the mystery misses, as I call them, the ones where you can't figure out what you should have done to avoid that. And, we need to talk about that. That's why I'm here, is to get you over those speed bumps where you can't figure it out on your own. And there's so many resources out there to help you learn things on your own, but at the end of the day, other than it being dark, at the end of the day, there are some you can't figure out on your own, even with all of that help that's online, and you can Google this and search that. Here I am to get you, to get you past that. And despite the occasional outward appearance, I am a warm and lovable, nice guy. Kind of big, but don't let that fool you. I'm here to help. More Q&A. We can talk about what we just went over. We can talk about chapter 13, if that's fresh on your mind, or all the way back to chapter 2 or 3 or 4, if you want to talk about that. It's a weird situation. No one wants to leave, but nobody wants to ask a question. Okay, if you want to leave, you can. 5 extra minutes doing something else. Just be quiet about it in case somebody else is still pondering a question and might still ask. No.